She spent months preparing for her dream interview. It was her only chance to escape poverty. But on the way, an old man collapsed in the street. People watched. Nobody stopped. She looked at her watch. Help him and lose everything, or walk away and save her future. She chose kindness. What she didn't know was that moment was the real interview, and the man she saved was a billionaire. This is not just a story about luck. It is about choices, the kind that define who we really are. A poor girl, burdened with responsibilities, racing against life itself, is on her way to the most important interview she will ever attend. One signature could change her life. One job could feed her family. One yes could heal her mother. But destiny does not always stand in offices. Sometimes it lies helpless on the side of a crowded street. This is the journey of a girl who learned that true success does not begin with a job. It begins with a heart that chooses compassion over convenience. Now, let the real story begin. The house did not have many things, but it had memories. There were cracks on the walls like veins, spreading from corner to corner. Paint flaked off like snow that no winter had given. The small kitchen window rattled even when the wind was gentle, as if it were tired of standing guard against storms. At night, one could hear everything: water dripping from a leaking pipe, coughing from the bedroom, the restless turning of children trying to sleep on empty stomachs, pretending to be full. In this house lived Ayla, thin, quiet, and stubbornly hopeful. She sat at a small wooden table, worn smooth by years of use. Books were piled in front of her, resumes, notes, certificates carefully protected in plastic sleeves as if they were treasures. The yellow bulb above flickered every few seconds, like it was also thinking about giving up. From the bedroom came the same sound that haunted her every night: her mother's cough. Not shallow, deep, dry, painful. The kind that echoed in ribs and left silence afterward. Ayla closed her eyes. Just one job, just one chance. I don't need miracles, only opportunity. Her younger brother, Rayon, slept in the corner with school books under his arm because they were too precious to leave anywhere else. Outside, the world moved on without them. Inside, every breath was a promise that tomorrow had to be better. On the table lay the interview letter, straight, folded perfectly, like something holy. She touched it gently. This wasn't just a letter. It was escape, medicine, school fees, food, dignity. She rested her forehead on the paper and whispered, "Please, God, don't let tomorrow slip away." The night didn't answer, but it listened. Morning did not creep into their home. It burst in. Sunlight forced its way through holes in the curtain, lighting floating dust particles that danced like tiny planets in a tired universe. Ayla stood in front of a fractured mirror, the kind where reflections came in broken pieces. She wore her only formal dress, pale blue, carefully ironed to hide wrinkles life had given it. The right sleeve carried a tiny new stitch she had sewn by hand at midnight, because dresses, like people, break in silence. She examined herself, not with vanity, but with evaluation. "Do I look like someone a company would hire?" she asked the mirror. The mirror stayed honest. It showed fear, determination, exhaustion. She tied back her hair because it made her look older, and in interviews, age looked like experience. She dabbed some powder her mother had kept for weddings. Today, it became bravery. Her mother called from the kitchen, voice thin but loving. On the table waited a small plate with dry bread soaked in tea instead of milk. "Eat this, Ayla. You shouldn't go empty stomach." Ayla smiled. "I will eat so much when I return with the job letter that we'll forget what hunger feels like." Her mother smiled, but her eyes glistened. Mothers know hope and desperation when they hear it. She placed a trembling hand on Ayla's cheek. "My daughter, life will give you choices. If ever you must choose between being important and being kind, choose kindness. God will take care of the rest." Isla hugged her gently, feeling bones through thin fabric. Those words would not leave her. They were seeds planted for a future she could not yet imagine. The city was far, but bus money was limited. So Ayla walked. Her shoes were worn, soles almost transparent in places, but still loyal enough to keep going. Every stone on the road seemed familiar. She had stepped on them while chasing hundreds of failed opportunities. She passed neighbors who pretended not to see her because they had run out of phrases like, "You'll get it next time." As she walked, she counted bills in her mind. Electricity due, medicine needed, school fee pending, food almost finished. Poverty is not only absence of money, it is constant mathematics. She whispered to herself, "Just this one job. Give me just this one yes." The city began to rise in front of her, loud, moving, uncaring. Her file was pressed tight against her chest like armor. The weight she carried wasn't paper, it was tomorrow. Cities have many faces but few hearts. Cars honked desperately. People moved like tides, forward, never sideways. Street vendors shouted prices. Buses exhaled smoke. Traffic lights controlled fate with colors. Ayla merged with the crowd, the letter clutched in her hand so tightly it wrinkled. Tall buildings towered overhead like giants that never bent down to see small dreams underneath. She checked the address again. She was close. 35 minutes to spare. Enough time, she told herself. Even room for nervousness. She pictured the interview room, panel, questions, answer sheets, and her voice steady as she fought for her life. She inhaled deeply, and then life changed tracks. An old man walked ahead of her. He wore a worn-out sweater, carrying a cloth bag full of groceries. He looked like every other elderly person the city had forgotten. Ordinary, slow, invisible. Then he stumbled. The stumble turned into a fall. His body hit the ground with a dull sound that was swallowed by noise around it. The bag burst open. Apples rolled like marbles across the asphalt. Bread flattened under hurried feet. A bottle shattered, spilling milk like spilled time. People slowed, looked, and kept walking. Someone whispered, "Maybe drunk." Another said, "Not my problem." No one bent. The old man's chest rose and fell sharply. His trembling hands tried to push himself up but failed. His eyes searched, not for help, for humanity. And in that moment, two roads opened before Ayla. She looked at her watch. 28 minutes left. Interview in the next street. Months of preparation. Years of struggle. A family depending on her. She heard a voice inside. Cold. Practical. "If you help him, you will lose everything. You can't afford this." Then another voice rose. Softer. Stronger. Sounding like her mother. "What if this was your father lying there?" People continued passing. The old man's breath became shorter. His hand shook, reaching for anything, anyone, even air. Ayla felt her heartbeat in her throat. Her legs moved before her mind finished deciding. She ran toward him. She chose compassion over convenience. The world didn't clap. Heaven did. She knelt beside him. "Sir, can you hear me?" No answer, just gasps and terror in his eyes. She shouted at strangers standing nearby. "Please, help me lift him." People avoided eye contact like guilt. She used all her strength to raise him enough to pull him to the side. She waved down a taxi so aggressively the driver had no choice but to stop. "Hospital, please, fast." The driver hesitated. "I don't want trouble." Ayla's voice broke into something that made people move. "He will die if we don't go." The driver's face softened. The car sped away. Ayla held the old man's hand all the way, whispering prayers, promising nothing but presence. Outside the window, the interview building passed by silently. Destiny smiled. The hospital smelled like fear and disinfectant. Doctors rushed him onto a stretcher. Nurses fired questions like bullets. Name, family, illness history. Ayla answered honestly, "I don't know. I just found him." She was told to wait. Waiting is easy when you have nothing to lose. It is brutal when everything depends on minutes. The clock ticked loudly above her head. Each second sounded like job gone, job gone, job gone. She tried calling the company, but there was no one to listen. Interviews don't pause for kindness. Time passed, thick and unapologetic. Her interview slipped away quietly, without drama, without sympathy, just gone. She buried her face in her hands and whispered, "I made a mistake. I ruined everything." But she stayed seated, because leaving him alone felt worse than losing her future. A nurse appeared again. "We need medicines. There is no family with him. Someone must buy them." Ayla opened her purse. There were a few worn notes, all they had left for the week. Bus fare, food, small safety net against hunger. Her fingers trembled around them. Then she remembered her mother's words, "Choose kindness." She pushed the money forward. All of it. Please, just save him. No hesitation, just surrender. The nurse ran. Ayla sank back into her chair. Empty purse, empty chances. Strangely peaceful. Sometimes sacrifice feels lighter than selfishness. Hours later, the doctor returned. "He's stable. You can see him now. He survived because of quick help and the medicines you purchased." Ayla walked into the room slowly. The old man lay with wires attached to him, oxygen tube resting under his nose. His eyes fluttered open. They searched the room and landed on her. "You stayed?" he whispered, voice dry. Ayla nodded. "Yes." His brows furrowed. "Did you lose something important for me?" She smiled, tired, gentle, honest. "Yes." "Why?" His eyes filled with tears no medicine could stop. "Because I wouldn't want someone to leave my mother lying on a road." Silence filled the room, the heavy, sacred kind. She didn't wait for thanks. She didn't explain what the interview meant. Some kindnesses are pure, done without calculation. Evening painted the world orange and gold. Ayla walked home, not because she wanted to, but because she had no bus money left. Wind cut through thin fabric. Streetlights smeared into glowing lines through tears in her eyes. Her file felt heavier, now that it contained broken dreams instead of certificates. At the door, her mother saw her face and understood everything. Mothers don't need words. She did not ask, "Did you get the job?" She asked, "Are you okay?" Ayla cried in her arms, not loudly, just enough to release ache. They shared a tiny bowl of rice that night. It wasn't enough, but love expanded it. And love is sometimes enough to keep tomorrow alive. The next morning arrived with something no one in their neighborhood had ever seen. Luxury cars rolled into the narrow lane slowly, careful not to scratch paint against close walls. Children followed, barefoot, laughing and pointing. Neighbors rushed to windows, pretending to clean curtains so they could see better. Someone knocked, not gently, respectfully. Ayla opened the door. There he stood, the same old man, except now different. Not weak, not abandoned. Surrounded by assistants, protection, drivers. Yet when he looked at her, his eyes held the same softness from the hospital bed. "I came to thank you properly," he said. Ayla stepped aside. Destiny entered her house in polished shoes. He sat in their tiny living room without discomfort. Greatness does not fear small spaces. "My name is Adrian Hale," he said. Silence exploded. Ayla had heard that name. Everyone had. It was written on skyscrapers, printed in newspapers, spoken with respect. One of the richest men in the city. A billionaire. He smiled. A tired smile that had carried too many meetings and contracts. "Yesterday, I fell not just because of illness," he confessed. "I fell because I was losing faith in people. No one stopped. No one helped." His voice broke. "But you did. A girl with nothing gave everything." He looked at Ayla's mother. "Your daughter didn't just save my life. She saved my belief that human hearts still exist." He placed a thick envelope on the table. It wasn't charity. It was gratitude in paper form. But the real gift was the one he spoke next. "I want to offer your daughter a place in my company," Adrian said gently. "Not pity, not repayment, recognition." He added more quietly, "And full treatment for your illness, complete funding for your son's education, training, mentorship. Every door I can open, I will." Ayla covered her mouth as tears poured. Unstoppable, unstoppable years of waiting spilling out all at once. I'm nobody, she whispered. I don't deserve, Adrian interrupted. People with money are everywhere. People with hearts are rare. My company needs people like you. Some offers don't knock. They break doors of fate and walk in. The corporate building rose like a mountain of glass. Its doors slid open silently, like respect. Ayla stood there, clutching her file, not with fear, but awe. Employees rushed around her in suits, holding tablets, speaking in confident voices. She felt underdressed, but not undeserving. Adrian walked beside her. He introduced her not as the girl who saved me, but as someone you will be proud to work with. She trained. She failed. She tried again. She learned words like strategy, portfolio, negotiation. She stayed late long after lights dimmed and security yawned. And every evening she returned home and told her mother, I will not waste what God gave me. Years don't shout. They whisper change. Ayla grew, from trainee to team leader, from quiet to commanding. Her ideas increased profits. Her honesty built loyalty. She never stepped on others to climb. She built ladders. Employees trusted her because she remembered who had a sick child, who skipped lunch, who needed encouragement. Adrian watched silently, proud. One evening, he called her into his office. The city lights glittered below like spilled diamonds. He slid a file across the desk. This company is not complete without you, he said. I want you as my partner, not assistant, not employee, partner. Ayla's hands shook. I was the girl who missed an interview, she whispered. And that, Adrian replied, smiling, was the best qualification you had. She returned to the hospital. Same corridors, same smell of antiseptic, different purpose. She wasn't there to ask for free treatment. She was there to pay for others. A new ward was built under Adrian's name, but because of Ayla's idea, children received surgeries they couldn't afford. Old people found beds instead of sidewalks. She never took credit. Kindness doesn't sign autographs. Ayla stood on a conference stage one day, thousands listening, cameras recording. She didn't speak about profits or charts. She spoke about that day. She told them she became successful, not because she chased opportunity, but because she refused to walk past someone else's suffering. People wiped tears silently. Some looked away, ashamed of roads they had ignored. When she finished, applause rose like a wave. But she didn't smile with pride. She smiled with gratitude. Adrian aged. Money couldn't slow years. He sat with Ayla by a wide window, watching clouds drift lazily across buildings. If I had died on that pavement, he said softly, I would have left behind wealth, but not peace. You gave me both back. He held her hand, fatherly, firm, fragile. Promise me you will continue helping people who fall. She squeezed his hand. I promise. He nodded, satisfied. Days later, he left the world quietly, with a smile. He left her company shares. He left her responsibility. He left her faith in humanity. Years later, Ayla walked down the same market street where apples once rolled across the road. Life had changed. Buildings hadn't. She stopped at the exact place where Adrian had fallen. Wind rustled through her clothes. She closed her eyes and whispered, The interview I missed was never my loss. It was my test, and I passed. She understood now. Interviews in offices decide salaries. Interviews in life decide who we truly are. She turned, walked into the crowd, not as the poor girl people ignored, but as the woman destiny bowed to. Above, unseen, blessings circled back home. And somewhere deep in the universe, a voice whispered, Kindness is never a delay in destiny. It is the path to it. Moral of the story. You will face moments where success demands selfishness. Choose humanity. What you give to others does not leave you. It returns in ways you never expect. If this story touched your heart, don't just scroll away. Subscribe to Momentum Stories, where every story gives you hope, strength, and a reason to believe. Again, your one click helps this channel grow and helps more people hear stories that change lives.